And welcome to Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host at Hot BFF with two P's, as always, joined by Thurry BFF with two F's. Hopefully you all had a good season. Fantasy championships wrapped up last week. Definitely some bad beats. Some people that ran into Alvin Kamara. Some people that lost on Monday night thanks to an exceptional performance from Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen had a blow-up game and actually outscored Tom Brady. Real fun fantasy football week that was probably an emotional roller coaster ride for a lot of people as a lot of guys went off. Personally, it was Mike Evans that did me in, but there were others for sure.
Is that like a personal, one shot at Andy Holloway where I'm going to play Tom Brady with Josh Allen?
No, because we told people to play Hurts over Allen, so
yeah,
in some scenarios, so I can't really take any shots. Those who live in glass houses.
It was, right. Obviously, massive jump. Plus, you got to pay more respect to good old Josh Allen. Bite my tongue a few times. Follow my pride as a.
Yeah. But it does happen. So, that being said, that's it for fantasy football season. We are not doing week 17 anything for fantasy football. We're jumping into the off season. We're going to talk about some things being debated on Twitter right now. We're going to discuss the situation in Washington with Dwayne Haskin. Going to give you some Black Monday predictions, give you some playoff previews, and give our thoughts on how that's all shaken out in week 17. Still give you some bets. We will do a quick step through and give you some bets that we like, but that is it for redraft fantasy football analysis for the season. And for us, it's always great to hit that point. Before we go ahead and jump into the content of this episode, which is good, should be a lot of fun, a lot of good discussion should be had. We got to tell you what we're drinking on, and this is where the fun starts for me.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, I'll go ahead and intro this because it deserves an intro. And throughout 2020, there's been a lot of dissension, if you will, between race riots and, varying opinions between the left and the right. We don't really get political on this show, but you had a political election that was hard fought, divided country. COVID thoughts. It seems everybody has an opinion and not everybody can agree. But if there's one thing I have not seen a lot of disagreement on, Twisted Tea has managed to bring everybody together. Or, in other words, a dude that totally deserved it getting smacked over the head with Twisted Tea has managed to bring anybody together. So, in honor of that, Dan is drinking the original Twisted Tea. It just so happened, if you're on YouTube, I just so happen to have a flight. So, we've got regular Twisted Tea, half and half Twisted Tea, light Twisted Tea, and then Odell Isolation Ale to get a real beer in there. But that's just because Casey's didn't have any of the flavors of Twisted Tea. So, we're going to do a little Twisted Tea throwdown. We'll give you our full thoughts on it as we go. I'll be alternating these as we go. Also give you a review on the Isolation Ale. But yeah, anything else you'd like to say about dude getting slapped over the head with Twisted Tea?
Dude, so 100% real. I have not seen the video. I think I started watching it and it looked very much the same to another video that started the guy in a convenience store being a fucking asshole and gets his ass kicked. I thought that was that video, so I skipped over it. I have yet to watch the Twisted Tea thing. I've worked, they talk about it. I was really fucking confused as to why we're doing a Twisted Tea episode. I'm like, why the fuck does he care about Twisted Tea? So God, like, where the fuck did this come from? Now it makes sense.
Did you look?
I still have not watched it. I'll probably watch it after the show.
Okay. So it's basically this one dude talking to in the convenience store. You'll think he deserves it. Talking to a black gentleman. like a black gentleman would talk to other black gentlemen, but it happens to be a white guy.
God.
And the black gentleman is holding a twisted tea, for those that don't know, and politely asks him, "Hey, don't call me that." And the white guy with his Bud Lights is just being straight belligerent, keeps going, and finally says, "What you gonna do? You gonna smack me with that tea? You gonna smack me with that tea? Why don't you smack me?" Right here. And the dude goes to spin it and drops it. Guy tries to kick it away. The other dude does. Dude picks it up, just fucking clocks him over the head with it. Twisted Tea explodes. There's some good remixes out there. Putting it to like Dave Matthews Band, 9 Inch Nails,
That's so
and
good.
just repeating the sound that it makes when it smacks this guy up the skull. Then it gets even better. So after he gets smacked in the skull with Twisted Tea, which he totally deserved, dude was being an asshole, and dude throws him to the ground and just starts unprotected shots straight to the head, also deserved, and then puts him in a chokehold. And the dude that instigated the whole thing is just like, okay, like he's just accepting his ass beating. But total Malibu's most wanted on this dude that's getting his ass handed to him. So it's definitely worth a watch. I would play it here, but the language is not really something that I want to put out on our channel. So go watch it on your own. It's literally everywhere.
Fair enough.
All right, cool. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into some of these hot topics. And by far, what blew up Twitter yesterday was the Dwayne Haskins release.
Yep.
And we talked about Dwayne Haskins a bit beforehand. It did, last week, and it did not get any better for him this week. He was benched for Taylor Heineke after, I think it was 2 picks.
3 turnovers.
Yeah, 3 turnovers. He's benched for Taylor Heineke, and then doesn't do media after the game. Is out in the parking lot in street clothes. Morgan Moses, one of their outstanding linemen, walks out in full street clothes to get him, to try to bring him back in to do media, and he won't do it. For those that don't know, you're a starting quarterback in an NFL game. You're required to do media. And Washington basically had enough of the act after the strip club or sister's birthday party and the attitude and the underperformance on the field. They're trying to change a culture there, and they cut bait. They put him on waivers, and he went unclaimed.
Went unclaimed. Oh,
Yeah, that released today. He went unclaimed on waivers. Because if they claim him, then
yeah, you got to pay.
they're on the hook for his salary.
Oh, I mean, it makes. He's a top 15 pick. He's still gonna. I, 21 years old.
23.
I thought he was 21.
No, 23.
23.
RG3 tweeted at him.
Okay.
And it'd be a real thing to be in the league at 21 after, I mean, Juju, I guess, did it, but to be in the league at 21 after you've been there for a year plus.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
He's still very much young. Obviously, hope that he doesn't piss this. Obviously, far. I can see a team bringing him in. Maybe a lot of these troubled players opportunities. Actually, try to save. Obviously, you got to have some talent. He plays up his. So I think he'll get a shot somewhere, but like that's it for. Not going to go out there and trade. He does get picked up. At any point, he may become backup that can play, but yeah, not really.
No, you're not for Dynasty. I don't know that you can. So, it's unfortunate, but I think he will latch on to be a backup. He's gonna be a total Josh Rosen situation though for him. I think.
I mean, it's I mean, yes, we'll see.
Yeah, and hold on, I'm pulling up 2019 rookie rankings now, but there is a lot we didn't on field that I know I, in particular, didn't like about Dwayne Haskins going into the draft, because it's not just the off-field stuff with Dwayne Haskins. He is a dumpster fire on field, too. A lot of people had him as the first quarterback off the board. I think I had him at number 4, just ahead of Minshew and Daniel Jones, which in hindsight, probably the right spot for him. Now, we mentioned that being thrusted into starting on a Washington team that didn't have a whole lot around them, probably not the best thing for him. Did nothing for his development. He needs to take this as a wake-up call
I hope so.
to get his shit right. And outside of the on-field performance, at minimum, he has the talent to be a backup in this league plus. But if he doesn't get his head screwed on right, it's not going to go anywhere. So for Dynasty, if you're a rebuilding team, I guess you can hold him and see where he catches on. There are going to be quarterback-needy teams out there that may take a flyer, much like the Dolphins did with Josh Rosen. But, you know, the value's pretty much tanked.
Yeah, like you're not gonna like at anything think that they're going to commit shot that he starts upcoming year in drafts their future. Roll guy's team if he doesn't drop them. Obviously sucks the way to take, but starting quarterbacks better not have value, especially it's super flex, not in single QB, but super flex leagues, 2 QB leagues. They have value, and he does have a chance to start and play some time, and actually get some significant playing time. Then you have a value, or you can flip him again to somebody who needs starting quarterback and get a better round pick.
Yeah, just not sure where he lands that he could start. It's something we'll have to watch in the offseason. Now's not the time to move him. Because right now, you're not even sure he's going to land anywhere, let alone someplace where he'll get to compete to start.
Yep.
Is more than just a flyer. So, yep. Sucks for him. Didn't see the writing on the wall, apparently, though, and he was given ample opportunity.
He was. I mean, I think he also knew that the writing was on the wall. It even well before this, Ron Rivera was never shy about how he felt about him, even through the offseason. It felt like Rivera, because this is what happens when teams change their whole coaching staff. It's that they want to bring in their guys.
Well, and it's not like
Dan Snyder pick. He went above his coaches' heads to make this pick.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's not like the old coaching staff really wanted him either.
Exactly.
They didn't. Like Dan just said, Snyder went above them to make this pick. And then everything comes out on Snyder this year, and we're going to change the culture. Ron Rivera comes in. It does show me that at least Dan Snyder is giving it to Ron Rivera to try to change the culture while he's off fighting his own problems. He's in another lawsuit come out against him today, did Dan Snyder. So
the dude needs to be forced to just sell the team. He doesn't deserve we don't need to get into this, but either way, with the Darius Geis thing, with the handling of Dwayne Haskins, Washington's making the right calls. They're not waiting to see. They're making snap decisions. Well, some may criticize them for that. I think I've been applauding them through it. They're not taking this shit and making this culture change.
Geis hasn't landed anywhere either.
No. I didn't think Geis would ever Geis likely will land at a team until we know what his sentencing is, actually go to jail, or does get settled outside of court. There is a chance he still has a shot. I don't think it's going to happen until there's obviously more news.
Yeah. I was looking for the Snyder's business maleficence or something like that he's charged with. Trying to find the specifics on it. Just a sec here. Don't care about that. Thomas Davis is retiring, just in case you were curious.
Tommy Davis?
Yep. Haskins unclaimed. We'll get to that here in a minute. We'll get to that here in a minute because that's another thing entirely. Actually, a good transition. Washington has a game they have to win at the same time. It was corporate malfeasance. I can't say that. In an affidavit filed Monday. So by one of his ownership partners,
trying to force him to sell his percentage of the team.
Yeah, Snyder accused the partners of planting stories of his alleged sexual misconduct in the national media. So now John Moog, the partner's advisor, claims Snyder sent intruders to his home to harass and intimidate him. He's accusing Snyder of serious corporate irregularities, including long missing financials, breaches of the partnership's agreement, and other significant issues. So it sounds like the ownership group may force him out.
I mean, good. If not them, the NFL. I mean, This is he's still a representation of the NFL. And
your owner should never be a distraction to the team.
The owner needs the best owners are the ones that stay out of headlines.
The ones you don't know.
Yeah, the ones that you don't literally know their names. Just let them sit in the background, make money, and get old, and then show up on the field when you win a Super Bowl.
Right. Or Paul Allen. But actually, I think he died. Anyway, Washington has a game to play, though. Playoff push. We lead through Week 17. NFL playoffs are about to be set up. So we look right now. I want to start with the AFC and just kind of give our breakdown, who the favorites are, how we think this is going to go, and how we think these various things are going to settle out. So Chiefs, Bills, Steelers have all clinched their division. So they've all clinched the division. They're all into the playoffs. Titans and Colts still fighting to figure out who wins the AFC South. Right now, the Titans have a leg up there. Both teams are 10-5. Titans just got stomped by the Packers. Colts got beat by the Steelers. So yes, both teams are 10-5 heading into this week. And this is where I want to start. The Colts have the Jaguars, which should be a winnable game. Titans have the Texans, which is a little bit tougher, but should still be a very winnable game.
Yeah.
You see anything changing between those two teams?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Houston pulls out a win. I mean, this is a talented team that, fortunately, a whole array of shit between Ryan and everything else, just underperformed. Think of them as the AFC version of Minnesota. Better than what their record suggests. They have a chance to spoil one. They have a chance to spoil Tennessee's shot at a division down here at home. I agree with you. I don't see how the Colts lose to Jacksonville. But I can definitely see Tennessee, who's kind of downplayed through their opponents at times this year. I can definitely see Houston making it.
I can absolutely see Houston making this a game. If I'm betting on it, I don't think this changes. I think both teams walk out with a win, and I think that puts the Colts. I don't know who holds what tiebreakers. I think both teams end up 11-6 though, or 11-5.
Yeah,
and the Titans win the division.
Yeah, you're gonna. Yeah, exactly. And right now, I think as it looks, looking at NFL.com's playoff picture, are out of.
They are outside looking in right now.
They're on the bubble right now. So
yeah, you got 5, 10, and 5 teams.
Obviously, they have to win. Keep that up. Kind of.
Yeah.
The AFC is going to be a clusterfuck. We mentioned it, I believe, on the live stream. One of these 11-5, 10-16
are not going to make it.
Are not going to make the play.
Yep. Browns had a chance to help themselves. So the other 3 teams that are in the hunt there, if we assume the Titans are in as a division winner, you still have 3 wild card spots up to grab. Dolphins, Ravens, Browns, Colts would be what that comes to. We already think the Colts are probably going to pull out a win against Jacksonville. The Dolphins have
Buffalo on the road.
Dolphins have Buffalo on the road, so not looking too promising for them. The Ravens have the Bengals, so they're likely in. It also 11-5. And the Browns have the Steelers. So I don't know. It looks like right now the Dolphins would have the tiebreaker over the Browns.
So Big Ben's not playing. He's already
No, Mason Rudolph will play.
Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen with Buffalo. Kansas City's already locked up number 1 spot. Again, guys, 7 playoff teams, only one. The top seed gets a bye. So seeds 2 through 7 have to play in their wild card. It shifts the thinking around, which is why I think Pittsburgh, who is tied with Buffalo at 12-3, why I think Pittsburgh is going to sit their starters because they realize, A, they can't get a bye, and B, home field likely won't matter after wild card matchup. I believe Buffalo holds a tiebreaker. Their win, so if they tie, obviously. So right now, Miami looks to be in the toughest position if Buffalo does decide to play their starters. Obviously, Mason Rudolph starting for Pittsburgh, and there could be other starters sitting. Should make it a little bit easier for Phillies to get them at home against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'll have to see what Buffalo does, because right now, Buffalo is... I think Pittsburgh and Buffalo are both locked into their seeding.
Yeah, I mean, if Pittsburgh wins, Buffalo loses, that'll flip-flop.
It flip-flops.
They're both 12-3. Yeah.
But I think, that makes it a real curious decision for Pittsburgh to sit Ben.
I think it just falls in line that
they don't care if they're 2 or 3.
Yeah, because they're not going to get a bye.
Yeah.
They're likely going to play at home their first 2 playoff games.
So if Buffalo follows suit, knowing that they're also not going to get a bye and probably only going to get their first playoff game at home, then, and I don't think they will. I think Buffalo's going to play their starters.
It could be like a preseason game week 3.
Yeah.
Starters maybe play first half, get those reps in, sit.
So I think the way that this ends up is that the Browns are on the outside looking in right now. If all of these
the
teams...
Colts are.
No. If all of these teams win.
Okay.
Which they're all set up in winnable games. The Titans have the Texans. The Colts have the Jaguars. The Browns have a binless Steelers team. The Ravens have the Bengals. And the Dolphins have the Bills. If the Bills play their starters the whole game, I think the Dolphins end up on the outside looking in.
Okay.
Because I think that they're going to end up 10-6 if the Bills decide to play their starters. I think the Bills will beat them. They'll end up 10-6. The Ravens, Browns, Colts all win, all end up in the AFC playoff picture, I think is how that goes.
So I just pulled up CBS Sports as all
scenarios
placed out here. So
it's a clusterfuck of a scenario in the AFC for everybody.
So Tennessee is in the driver's seat. Basically, they control their fate. AFC South.
Yeah, they win, they're in. They lose, they could go all the way to out of the playoffs.
I don't really want to go.
Yeah. No, that's what I said. I looked at them earlier. There's a lot of scenarios.
Okay, I'm sorry. My bad.
I pulled it up and decided not to go there because of how many different scenarios there are. Tennessee can be anywhere from winning the division to out of the playoffs, and it's the same thing for Indy. They can win the division or be out of the playoffs. Most likely scenario, I think, is that the Titans, Colts, Ravens, Browns are all in, and the Dolphins are outside looking in, unfortunately, after a great season. I would honestly be I honestly think it's going to suck to see the Dolphins or the Browns miss the playoffs. I think that both of those teams are easy to root for, would be fun to root for if they got in. I would much rather, as a fan, see the Ravens or the Colts on the outside looking in. Preferably the Colts, which is how it sits right now. I don't see Jacksonville beating Indy.
Indy's in. Tennessee is likely division winner. Baltimore gets Cincinnati. Not gonna. It's going to be that scenario, I think all these teams win. None of them are playing each other.
Well,
All
if the
these teams-
it,
Dolphins and Bills. I'm sorry,
yeah, if the
true.
Bills rest their starters and everybody wins, then it stays exactly as it is right now. And Indy's outside looking in.
Just imagine though, Miami does lose this game. They'll get Houston's pick, which is top 5 pick right now. Like obviously could change, and then their pick, which are like 16 or 17. With this deep of a class, that's you're Dolphins fans. I don't think you could be mad in either direction. You obviously want to see playoffs, but they miss it. They're going to have 2 top 20 picks. One of them being a top 5.
With a team that's already good and a deep class, they've got 2 backs that are worth a shit. That's proven. By the way, Myles Gaskin apparently was the answer to who's the lead back if they're both healthy.
Yes, which I expect to be the same next year.
If they don't make a move. Yeah, I do too. Gaskin is more than shown he's capable. Get Devontae Parker some help with one of those picks, and defense has been good, offensive line's been good. Rich get richer with the other one.
Yep.
So
that's what happens when you make correct decisions and take advantage of bad traits.
Yeah, Parker, Preston Williams, get yourself a third wide receiver, and Dolphins are in good shape for a while. So even if they miss, a lot to hang your hat on there. Be interesting to see. Keep an eye on the Bills, because I think what the Bills decide to do is what determines how this goes. Whether Indy or Miami is on the outside look.
Yeah, and I think even if they'll be like they may not say anything. They may play their starters and at halftime make that massive shift, especially if the score is in any big direction or not. Like if they're losing heavily or winning heavily at halftime, you can definitely win that decision because it's tractable. They can't get the number 1 seed. They can't get a bye. They're just controlling either the 2 or 3 seed.
All right, and assuming that the Dolphins are the team that ends up on the outside looking in, because that's the most likely scenario right now as it stands today. Who's the strongest team in the AFC to you? Who's the sleeper, and who's going to be the surprise bounced first?
Obviously Kansas City is the best team in the. I don't think that's out of question. I know that you can say Buffalo will make a case for that, and I definitely think Buffalo is the second best. Surprise bounce for me, I think Pittsburgh. I think it was a tough, gutsy win against the Colts. I'll give them that. But this team has struggled for 13 quarters, 14 quarters before that second half comeback against a team that has made these kind of questionable decisions throughout the year with the Colts. The Colts should have won that game handily if they, for some reason, decided to stick with the run. I think they'll be the surprise push, and then I think Buffalo is going to make the AFC Championship game. Obviously, depending on how everything plays out, I think your AFC Championship game, Houston, and the Bills. Maybe the Browns could edge out a win. I think Baltimore is probably the one team to look at that's a wild card team. Because they're not that far removed from that 14-2 team, and the offense is finally starting to look better. It's just whether or not the defense can get healthier.
Sure. All right, I'm with you on the Chiefs being the best team here right now. The defense has played better down the stretch, while the offense hasn't been blowing people out. We know what they can do. They just control games, and that's one thing that Kansas City is very, very good at. I agree the Bills are going to give them a run for their money. I think that's going to be an awesome game to watch. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen are 2 very exciting quarterbacks, to say the least.
Yeah.
Steelers have been playing down to their competition a lot. Injuries on defense have hurt them. I think resting Ben is the right move. I think they need to. I think they're a lot of people's favorite pick, though, to get bounced by one of these wild card teams. And I can't say that I disagree with that. Right now, looking at how these teams are performed, I think looking at the 3 that are clinched or the potential 4 division winners, that Pittsburgh's the one that I'm least confident in being able to make a run at this. They're also the one, though, that I could see absolutely turning it on and going the other way with it and making a run at it. But I think the loss of Bud Dupree and some of their linebackers has just really, really hurt them. As far as the team that I think can make the surprising run, you said the Ravens. I'm going to throw a different one out there, and it's Tennessee. I know they just got stomped by Green Bay, but I think they can repeat some of the magic from last year, given the fact that there is multiple ways that this team can beat you. Yeah, they were playing in the snow. That got them a little rough. But we've seen them be able to win with the throw. Derrick Henry is the type of back that will just wear everybody down, and none of these other teams have an extremely strong run defense. The Bills are weak up the middle. Steelers have gotten worse as the season's worn on. And Derrick Henry is the game changer when it comes to that. I think Baltimore probably would pose the biggest threat to Tennessee, given how Tennessee wants to play football.
Yeah, I mean, and again, 1 year removed, Tennessee was in the AFC Championship.
Yep, exactly.
With impressive victories against New England and against the number one seed Baltimore. So,
yep,
I agree with you with Tennessee. I think any of these teams, any of these wild card teams, besides maybe the Colts, Browns, Ravens, and Tennessee Titans are 3 wild card teams that I could see surprising a Steelers team. Like even Buffalo, as much as we love what Josh Allen and them has done, what we saw last year against Houston at home, the utter collapse of Josh Allen and this Buffalo offense and this Buffalo team last year in the second half against the Texans, they also creep back up. This is a great chance for Josh Allen to rid himself of that stench that he had from last year. Prove to the people that regular season Josh Allen will make the move into the playoff, Josh.
And the Bills are just playing a different brand of football this year.
Oh, God, yes. So, yeah, it looked amazing.
Yeah, they're just playing they have not had to lean on the run this year like they did last year. They're playing a completely different brand of football. But
probably good for them.
To wrap up the AFC, I'll just say this. The wild card teams all have something in common outside of the Ravens. But not even just the wild card teams. I think the Bills, the Titans, the Browns all have one very big thing in common, and that's can the defense come to play well enough come playoff time to make them contend.
Yep. That's
been the weak spot of all of those teams down the stretch, and they've been winning games, but Steelers too, even as of late. It's what defense is going to step up, and that's going to make all the difference because there are some loaded offenses in the AFC, but what defense comes to play is going to be the biggest difference there.
I agree.
All right, flipping over to the NFC picture. Let's start with there's a couple things interesting here. Let's start with the Washington football team in the NFC East before we go ahead and look at the wild card picture. So, over on this side, there are 4 teams currently locked into playoff spots. The Packers, Saints, and Seahawks have all clinched divisions, and then the Buccaneers have clinched the playoffs. And they've clinched that first wild card spot, I believe. There's no way that any of these other, I guess the Rams could, but I don't think they hold that tiebreaker. So.
Yeah, I don't think, it's all.
I think that
home field advantage all lies on Green Bay, New Orleans, and Seattle.
Yes. More on those 3 playing for the number 1 seed in a minute, but let's start with the East. Washington's going out there they may be starting Taylor Heineke, for all we know right now. Alex Smith's still dealing with a calf injury. They're hopeful, but it's a functionality issue right now, according to Ron Rivera. If Washington loses, the winner of the Dallas Giants game will win that division. So Washington right now controls their own destiny. Philly is eliminated.
Yep.
So Washington right now controls their own destiny. If they lose in the night game, the winner of the Giants or the Cowboys earlier in the day will make it. Cowboys have been playing better football as of late. I think that they beat the Giants.
Agree.
Washington against Philly. Washington very well could lose that game.
I think they do. I think
especially with no Alex Smith.
Heineke plays, yeah. If there's no Alex Smith, and even then, Gibson's banged up, McLaurin's banged up. The defense is playing on another level, and that's what's going to keep them in the game. Philly, a lot like the Colts did against Pittsburgh, got away from what was being successful for them. And I think Philly, I want to say they'll make the correction. Who the fuck knows? They also get to play spoiler. They're at home. I think I think Washington loses, and I agree. I think Dallas beats New York, even though it's in New York. I think Dallas does handle the Giants.
They've been playing better.
And I think they're the best team overall at this moment
in the NFC.
And they have a veteran quarterback who's very much a comfortable.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Dallas right now is the best team in the NFC East. I don't want to take anything away from the coaching job that Ron Rivera has done, or what Washington has done. The front seven of that defense has played very, very well. The linebacking core has actually overperformed, even though we know how good the pass rush has been with Chase Young, Montez Sweat. I think Bostic in that linebacking core has overperformed. The secondary has played very well. It's a good coach, well-coached defense. Terry McLaurin is awesome. Quarterback proof, as they've had a world of problems at the quarterback and running back position.
Yeah, I think with you, I think we're both ready to win this.
As much as I hate Dan Snyder, yeah, I'm rooting for Washington.
I'm rooting for Alex Smith. I'm rooting for Ron Rivera, what he had to battle through that I wasn't aware of until last weekend.
Yeah. You didn't know that he had to battle through cancer? Yeah, he had cancer beginning of the season.
That's insane. I mean, I'm sure it was mentioned. I just, and obviously, everybody outside of Dan Snyder, I think, deserves Washington fans, the players. Smith should easily win comeback player. I don't see how anyone else could take that from him. And Ron Rivera, I think, should be in conversation for coach. I don't think he'll win it, but I think he should be in conversation.
No, he absolutely should be with the job that he's done. But Dallas is loaded at too many positions, and I think is finally starting to perform more toward their talent level. I think Andy Dalton's managed to knock the rust off. We know they're loaded at wide receiver with CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and Amari Cooper. You take one away, they just go to the next one. They have really three guys that are capable of being number one wide receivers there. Two great running backs. One running back that's been very good and one running back that historically has been good, but not lately.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And then, Leighton Vander Esch is still Chidobe Awuzie. They still have good pieces on defense as well, where Dallas is a team that could really step up and, kind of compete, especially against one of the wild card teams. So I think Dallas ends up taking that division.
Yeah, and the biggest difference, Dallas is getting healthy. Washington's not.
Yeah.
New York is battling with their own issues.
Especially along the line.
Dallas is just the healthiest. Exactly. Dallas is just the healthiest. A push comes to shove this late in the year, who's ever the healthiest at their key position. Win this.
Yep. All right, looking at the wild card round, a couple different ways this could go. Or the wild card game. Sorry, the Bucs are locked into one of those spots, which means there's two spots left for the Rams, the Bears, and the Cardinals. And I'll talk about this from a Bears perspective. So the Rams play the Cardinals. The Rams cannot miss the playoffs. They can. I think if Arizona wins, the Bears
win and the Cardinals win.
Yeah, if the Bears win and the Cardinals win, the Rams are out. If the Bears lose, then Rams need to win. Yeah, if the Bears lose, the Rams are in, and then the Rams would need to win for the Bears to be in. Arizona's winning in, essentially.
They have to win. Yeah, they just have to win.
Yeah. Arizona's winning in because if they win, they're in over the Rams. And it doesn't matter. And, then the Bears completely control their own destiny. The Bears are winning in, for that matter.
Yep.
Los Angeles is winning in. So, there's three teams right now that are winning in. And that's the simplest way to put it. Otherwise, Rams win, Bears are in, Cardinals win, Bears are out, Rams are in if the Bears don't win. So there's your scenarios.
Rams and Cardinals are playing each other. Once that game is in, Bears win. They're in. If the Rams lose.
Yeah. Yep. Now, how do we see this one shaking out? So I know the Rams and the Cardinals are playing each other. Rams will be without Jared Goff. They're starting John Wolford at quarterback. Don't know a damn thing about him. He played for Wake Forest, was not highly regarded coming out. They are expected to. I don't think they have yet signed Blake Bortles off the Broncos practice squad.
I thought they did, but
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
They did. So
Okay.
Blake Bortles has been signed off the practice squad. He was their backup in 2019. If John Wolford struggles, this is a need-to-win game for the Rams. They will go to Blake Bortles.
Oh, easily. Like the Bears were basically praying that the Rams could have Seattle. That way, Green Bay has nothing to play for. They clinch the number 1 seed because they have the tiebreaker over. Basically, Green Bay they have to win and they get the bye. So obviously, you're not seeing Green Bay sit there. It's going to force like. The Bears have the toughest spot. The Bears are rooting for the Rams. Hopefully, they just beat Green Bay outright. I don't think they will, but
they've been playing better. But man, you want to talk about a measuring stick for how much truly better this team is? This is going to be it because we know what it looked like last time they played Green Bay with Nick Foles there.
This is a wild card team, or not card team. This is a wild card game. This is a playoff game for both.
Yes,
more so for Chicago. Going to be a true test to see where this team stands amongst the rest of the NFC.
Yeah, and man, you thought I liked Blake Bortles before. Can you imagine if he comes in and just beats the Cardinals and I don't have to worry about it? About the Bears beating the Packers, at least this week. I'd say I'd buy a Blake Bortles jersey, but I already own one. So
you would go out there and try to find a Blake Bortles Rams jersey.
Well, that wouldn't be hard to do either, and I would definitely do it. I'd have 2 Blake Bortles jerseys.
I think it'd be worth it for you.
Cooper Kupp's also on the COVID list, by the way. Something to watch, although Josh Reynolds is a completely viable plug-and-play there, as is Van Jefferson. So,
yeah.
But
he'll be missed. He'll be missed.
He will be. It's going to be messy for this. It really is. I don't know that the Bears beat the Packers. It's going to be a great measuring stick game to see how much better the Bears are with the offensive line changes and with Mitch Trubisky coming in. If Trubisky beats the Packers, he just earned his next contract is what happens.
I mean, it's already been stated pretty much that if Matt Nagy gets this team to the playoffs, he'll get his extension.
Well, he won't get fired.
He won't get fired. Excuse me. You're right.
Yeah.
And then Trubisky
I think
will
he's
already going to get a Blake Bortles deal. I think they won't pick up his option. I don't think they have, and he'll get some sort of a 2 to 3 year contract or contract extension.
Yeah,
they'll see from there.
Any thought in your mind that Blake Bortles does not end up in this game at some point for the Rams?
If they get
I think they should be just flat out starting Blake Bortles. Personally, I don't know what they've seen in John Wolford to like. But I guess something because they let Bortles go. But I think that if I'm the Rams, I'm just starting Blake Bortles. He has playoff experience.
It may not even matter. They may lean heavily on this running game. Probably going to be a more simplified McVay offense, basically with no Kupp. Woods.
You got to win.
You're going to trust in Woods. You're going to trust in the short A-dot. Take your chances when you need them. They still have a good depth chart of playmakers, even without Kupp. We spoke about Van. We spoke about Josh Reynolds. Higby. They have 2 very much viable tight ends. Even without Akers, Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, and the Cardinals have also struggled. Murray hasn't been the same shoulder injury, and they've underperformed since that a comeback last second win in Buffalo.
So John Wolford, looking at his college stats, 59.7 completion percentage, over 8,000 yards. He's one of those guys that really only did he was a 4-year starter, but really only put up good numbers his senior year. Career 59 touchdowns to 41 interceptions. The only year he had more touchdowns than interceptions was his senior year. So, and you bring him in a must-win game to take his first NFL snaps. That's why John Wolford over Blake Bortles doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
I mean, well, it's a we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe it's maybe the offense has changed enough for them not to feel comfortable back in. I don't know. I honestly don't really care. Like, obviously, you have a lot more stake into it than this.
I do. So
I personally want to see the Bears make it because I still don't think keeping Trubisky is the right call. But I've been.
They don't have a high enough draft pick, in my opinion, to go another route, though, either. And I don't know what's hitting the free agent market, but that's going to be more expensive than Trubisky. I think that or you completely commit to tanking. But we'll get into offseason later. Who do you think the two wildcard teams are?
Rams, Bears.
Rams, Bears?
Yep. I think even with whoever their starting quarterback is, I think they're at home. I think that matters in this sense. I think McVay is going to be good enough to win out a grindy game. I want to root for Arizona because I love Hopkins. I like what this team is being built. But I think Arizona doesn't win this game, thus making the Bears-Packers game irrelevant in the sense that
they play at the same time. So
they play at the same time. Now that's important too, because that you may, if it looks like the Cardinals are going to lose, the Bears may start resting their players.
Yeah, they play at the same time as
this is why you don't play Week 17.
As do Saints, Panthers, and Seahawks 49ers. So nobody's going to know anything. Everybody's playing their starters the whole game because you're not going to know anything in regards to that number one seed either. Because Seahawks, Niners, and Saints, Panthers all play at the same time as well.
It just depends on how the scores look. And I agree. None of these guys are going to be sat until the games themselves look like they're in hand. Like if the Saints are losing to Carolina and they're going to lose. Seattle is losing to the 49ers. That'd be the only way that Green Bay sits a play. And at that point, if they get a big against Chicago, then they'll likely rest their guys. That week and a half bye week.
Yeah. I'm going to say Rams-Bears, but it's not a confident one. I think one of two shocking things happens. Either Blake Bortles leads the Rams to a win over the Cardinals, or Mitch Trubisky beats the Packers.
Yeah.
I should probably say Rams-Cardinals because as a Bears fan, then I'm setting myself up to be disappointed, and I can only go up from there. But I'm going to also go with Rams-Bears. Now, looking at the number one seed, Packers right now control that. They win, they're the number one seed. They lose, then either of New Orleans or Seattle, based on the outcome of their games, can win. I don't know who holds those tiebreakers. Out of Saints, Seahawks, Packers
win, it's theirs. Saints win and Packers lose, and Seattle wins. Win and a Packers loss and a Seattle win. Seattle gets it with a win and a Packers loss.
Okay, so Seattle needs both the Saints and the Packers to lose.
Correct.
So for Seattle to get it, the Bears would have to beat the Packers, and the Panthers would have to beat the Saints. I don't think Seattle's getting that.
No.
One of those two things may happen. Both of them will not.
The Saints are rooting for the Bears and Seattle.
Yes.
That's just based off a tiebreaker. Oof. And then Green Bay gets it if they win or Seattle loses.
Which Seattle against the 49ers, I don't think they're losing.
I don't know anything with
so Seattle.
It's look so different second half.
Yeah, that's also true. They could very well lose. I think Green Bay is number one seed.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I think that Well, wait. Seahawks win, Packers lose. Seahawks are 1 seed, right?
Seattle will get the number 1 seed if both Green Bay and New Orleans gets the number 1 seed if might be big tiebreaker. Green Bay gets it.
So if Seattle loses and Green Bay loses and the Saints win, the Saints are the 1 seed.
No, because Seattle loses.
But what if Green Bay loses?
Then it still be Green Bay. Basically, Green Bay gets it if they win or Seattle loses. Seattle or Green Bay owns the tiebreaker over.
Okay.
The Saints win and Green Bay loses. Green Bay still has the tiebreaker.
So
that's why Seattle needs
then the
to
Saints
win.
can't be the number 1 seed.
They can. Saints are number 1 seed if Green Bay loses and Seattle wins, because then New Orleans will have the tiebreaker over Seattle. Seattle will be above Green Bay based on their tiebreakers, and then the Saints will have the number 1.
But the Saints don't have the tiebreaker over Green Bay, and they don't have the same record at that point.
They will all be 12-4.
Yes.
Right now, Green Bay's 12-3. New Orleans and are both 11.
So if they're all 12-4,
they would all be 12-4. I'm looking at it, what CBS has posted, and that's what they say with this. They win.
So they have a different
Green Bay
outcome
loses.
though if the Packers and the Saints are both 12-4. That's what I don't understand. How do you have a different outcome if both teams are 12-4, regardless of what Seattle does?
I'm guessing Seattle has a better claim over Green Bay, and then the Saints would just override. I don't know. I don't really fucking care because I do care, but I think Green Bay wins regardless, and I think this whole mess is not going to look messy at all when it's all said and
So
done.
you're betting on Green Bay and the Rams both winning because you said you think Rams and Bears are in the playoffs, so you'd be betting on Green Bay and the Rams to both win.
I think no. If the Rams win, Chicago's in regardless.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. You're betting on if you think Green Bay is going to be the 1 seed.
Yeah,
you're betting on Green Bay and the Rams to both win, based on how you see this falling out. Okay.
Yeah. I think Green Bay will beat the Bears, and I think
that was a lot of rambling to really solve nothing. The Packers, Saints, and Seahawks. One of them will be the 1 seed.
This is what happens in Week 17. And there's no more fantasy.
Probably Green Bay. Should be Green Bay. All right. Same question. This one. Who's the toughest team? Who's the sneakiest team, and who's the surprise early exit?
Oh my god!
Based on,
I'm going to say who's ever the number 1 seed is going. I think whoever controls home field advantage throughout. I think Green Bay's beatable. They look like the best team. New Orleans gets healthy, they look like the best team. And if Seattle somehow reverts back to their old ways early part of the season, at home they're good enough to be the best team through. Bit of a cheater answer, but whoever locks in home field going to be the toughest team. The most surprising team, I don't know. Like, I can see Chicago getting on a run. It's a great defense. They have found their groove. They can win in likely any sort of scenario. Defense should be good enough to keep these games close. I think the offense can score enough to balance that out. The Saints are healthy, though. They're, again, one of the strongest teams. They can get everyone back in health, especially Michael Thomas. I don't believe in the Rams after the wild card. I don't believe in Aaron. I think we will. I think the NFC East, whoever wins it, will win their home game. That's my prediction. I think they'll win first game against whoever.
Sure. All right, for me, the strongest team.
See, it's not simple.
No, it's not. Seattle's defense has been better of late, but the offense has sputtered. Saints haven't been healthy. They should get Michael Thomas back, especially if they get first round bye. The Packers, Defense looked good. Offense we know is good. So I'm going to go ahead and say I think that the Packers are the strongest team here. I'm with you on the Bears being the most surprising team. Defense matters when it gets to the playoffs. They have a super talented defense, and the offense has hit a groove lately. They've been scoring in bunches. They've found their running game, and I think that they could make a run at this thing if they can get in. Surprise exit. I don't see Tampa Bay leaving first round, so I'm going to say that one of the two teams that does not get the 1 seed is going to be bounced early out of the Saints, Seahawks, and Packers. I'm going to say that there's going to be an upset there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Tampa Bay is probably placing the winner of NFC. I can see an upset. Chicago traveling to Seattle or New Orleans and taking one to come in. Yeah,
especially against Seattle. Yeah. No, I'm with you there. All right, cool. A lot to talk about the playoffs. It's going to be exciting to watch. We'll have plenty more conversation around that as we go. I'm really excited for the 3:25 slate of games here this Sunday.
I agree.
And all games are on Sunday, I believe. Yeah, no Saturday games. All games are on Sunday. Your 12 o'clock games really don't have a lot of implications immediately. Well, I guess they do. Games that don't matter are Vikings, Lions, Falcons, Bucks, and Jets, Patriots.
I'm rooting for the Lions because I have the Vikings at less than 7 wins.
Gotcha.
As a bet, so I am being a terrible Vikings fan.
Yeah. Dolphins, Bills matters more so for the Dolphins. Browns, Steelers matters for the Browns. Cowboys, Giants matters only based on the outcome of the Washington-Philly game. Man, if I was the NFL, I would have flipped those two.
I really wish they could have were
more
of these split decisions. But I mean, I get why not.
Yeah, I do too. Ravens, Bengals is a game that matters only for the Ravens. Actually, good job on the NFL. There's only handful of games here that don't matter. Chargers Chiefs doesn't matter. And Raiders Broncos. 3 games that don't matter out of the whole slate. Chargers Chiefs, Raiders Broncos, and Lions Vikings.
It's gonna be a fun Sunday. I'm gonna be working for most of it, so I'm sad about that, but it's gonna
That sucks. All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and do some Jerry Jeudy debate here. So one of the big things that's been flying around on Twitter this week is the debate on whether Jerry Jeudy's a bust. I've seen every argument from you can't call somebody a bust after 1 season to yes, it's 1 season, but his efficiency's been terrible, and if you're not efficient, you're never going to be good. To pretty much every take in between. So, Jerry Jeudy, obviously a very disappointing season. Terrible catch rate, terrible efficiency of this target volume. What are your feelings on Jerry Jeudy? Is it too early to call him a bust?
Yes. I mean, you can't call anybody a bust after 1 season. We've been preaching this is why we generally spend 3 years talking about a rookie class before we call it a day on them. A lot of shit can change. Josh Allen looked like a bust his first year, and look at him now. Chris Godwin didn't do shit until year 3. Jeudy has a lot of talent. Problem with Jeudy is that I think he was drafted. I was not on the Jeudy bandwagon. Played for Alabama, so I always say there's this Alabama tax, meaning that a team that drafts them will generally reach for them because of this fucking aura that surrounds them, thinking that they're better than they actually are. I think Judy's better than what we've seen from him this year. I think that is easily enough to see. Problem has been his value. He was a top 15 pick, I believe. And then for rookie drafts, he was generally a mid first round pick. So a lot of people were more pissed off because he hasn't really hit much while watching Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, all the rest of these guys kind of, show something year one. I think Denver is going to pull some crazy ass shit at the quarterback position. John Elway's going to try to save his job as GM. We debated enough about Drew Lock. I don't need to get into that, but I think they're going to make some sort of major run, at a veteran quarterback, because this playmaking group is insane, and that's going to bump Jeudy. Jeudy, kind of a buy low at this point. He'll get Cortland Sutton back. He'll fall into that number 2 spot because I think he'll fit better as Calvin Ridley type, where he doesn't have to face number 1 guys. And then you'll see the game slow down for him. Obviously, with Miles Sanders last year, game's probably just moving fast for him. He got thrusted into a number 1 spot when he wasn't ready, and I think you're seeing just overreactions.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. One of the big things that was thrown out was, well, only 6.8 yards per target, and if you're not efficient, you can't do it. First off, I hate the yards per target metric for a wide receiver, because there's so much that goes into that that's out of the wide receiver's control. What's the scheme? What's the offensive scheme? What routes are they running? Are they only working him over the middle in the intermediate game? What's the quarterback throwing? When's the quarterback throwing to him, et cetera, et cetera. And, you look at Jerry Jeudy's yards per target being 6.8. Well, Drew Lock's only averaging 6.5 yards per attempt. They're not working the ball downfield. He's 28th in the league. So I don't think you can hold that against Jerry Jeudy. And I look at Michael Gallup as a comp for how bad his first year was. And he didn't have the target volume, but the catch rate, the drops, yards per game, things of that nature are all very, very much similar. And for Jerry Jeudy, I agree with you. It's the value that is making people hate this. It's not the player.
Yep.
For Jerry Jeudy, I mean,
it's not. It hasn't been good. There's a lot to build on from this, and we'll see how his character is now tested. To where not playing with this insane elite offense that he had in Alabama.
Yeah.
Can he overcome this step back?
Well, and I said when he came out, he didn't even look like the best receiver on his own team last year. I agree, he was overdrafted. Devontae Smith was much better.
Yeah.
I think Ruggs was the 4th best receiver on that team.
Ruggs, and we've talked about this. I don't have a lot of faith in Ruggs. I blame a lot of the Las Vegas' organization for it. And I think he'll get an unhealthy foot, but Jeudy has the skill set to bounce back from.
He does. Yeah, he does, and I think that he will. I agree with you that he's buy low. He saw over 100 targets. He was pressed into duty before he should have been. And with the injury to Cortland Sutton. So, trying to get player profile there pulled up, but it looks like their database is dead. So
yeah, there's something going on. But yeah, I mean, I get on the other side, though. He couldn't beat out Tim Patrick, and I don't know if Jeudy would have done much this year had Sutton stayed healthy. I think it would have been you cannot write off a player's career based on his first. You just can't. Does his value change? Is there some pause for concern? Absolutely, yes. Jerry Jeudy may not bounce back from this being a bust. The good thing for him is, unlike with Michael Gallup, I don't see Denver drafting a receiver anytime soon. Just took Cortland Sutton in 2018, and they just spent 2 high-value picks on Jeudy and KJ Hamler. No offense there. Drafted Albert O as this hyper-athletic guy, and I don't see them making that shift. If they do, that's going to look right. But for right now, I think it's an overreaction. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and I'm just going to keep using the Michael Gallup comp because I really like it, and I just keep coming back to it. Catch rate in year 1, drop rate in year 2 for Gallup was 9.7. It's 9.4 this year for Jeudy. Similar type of receiver, especially coming out of college, worked a lot of intermediate routes. Gallup won a lot with positioning, not route running so much, so they do differ a little bit there. But just results, and you need 3 years in the league as a receiver before I think you can really be written off as a bust or anything else. He's on a mediocre offense. Line wasn't good. Not a lot of great receiving options around him to let him ease into it, a la what Calvin Ridley's gotten in Atlanta with Julio Jones.
Yep.
What A.J. Brown's gotten with Corey Davis in a way. Cortland Sutton, I think, would have helped Jerry Jeudy out a bit in terms of his overall rookie season looking better. Justin Jefferson with Adam Thielen is another good example of how much having a veteran receiver there with you can really, really help. An established veteran receiver can really help. Gallup had Amari Cooper, and I just
for about half that year.
About half that year, and then all of his second year, which is when you really saw him start to improve.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there's just a lot of things that I think didn't go Jeudy's way this year. But I think he's a buy low. I think he bounces back. I still like him as a wide receiver too. That's where I had him coming out for the most part, as I thought that that's where he'd end up as a wide receiver too. And I think that fantasy football is so much what have you done for me lately, that rookies get 1 year to produce, and then nobody produces, and it's such an asinine thing in Dynasty where the idea is to draft players and give them time to develop to be useful for your team. Is a normal
weird,
NFL franchise would. People are just drafting these players thinking, I need you to produce year 1, and if you don't, you're gone.
I don't know if you saw, but someone posted a comment on it was A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, and Justin Jefferson drafted ahead of Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I saw that.
I quote tweeted saying that the fantasy football community is just, what have you done for me? Dynasty is even heightened more.
Yeah. And, I don't know how much of a, not to tangent into this discussion, I don't know that I have a huge issue with that as somebody that got out of Michael Thomas in a lot of places. Or is trying to.
That was just one example, obviously.
There's more that goes into that than just Michael Thomas having a bad year. It's that, this is probably Drew Brees' last year, the uncertainty of what's going to happen with that offense. The fact that now without Brees throwing a bunch, Michael Thomas, you've really kind of seen, that he is used in a very limited type of way, to where without the volume isn't there, then the production really isn't there. So just a lot of things with Michael Thomas and, old slant boy there to think about. But going back to what have you done to me lately, I just want to point out one of my favorite dynasty teams. It's your league. Jonnu Smith, year 3. This is his 4th year. Year 3 started to break out finally. Was behind Delaney Walker the first 2 years. Don't drop him, never realize that. Rebuilt the team after the first year. Alan Lazard, undrafted. Bounced between 3 teams, held on a roster, finally gets a shot in Green Bay. Had some useful weeks. Here are some other of my favorites here. Myles Gaskin. Sat on my roster all of last season to break out this year.
I'm so happy about Myles Gaskin.
I am too.
You and I loved him.
Yep. Damian Harris is a guy. Jeremy McNichols, 4 years in, finally sticks on a roster somewhere and flashed a little bit. Jacoby Myers, another guy. That's about the end of this one. Deebo Samuel, Gabe Davis is a rookie this year, sitting on my practice squad. He'll turn into something good. But just, things like that. There's at least 4 guys right there that legitimately have sat on my roster for more than one season, because sometimes it takes that long. It takes a guy getting a chance if you believe in the talent.
Yep, exactly.
Or it takes some time for them to adapt to the NFL.
And it also just takes a little luck and opportunity. A lot of guys that probably bitch, well, I just never had a shot. Why it's really fun to see day 3 guys, undrafted guys, get their shot that actually show something, and you get rewarded. I mean, you got rewarded with, Damon Harris part of the season, Myles Gaskin. I don't see Miami drafting a running back this year, but if they do, I don't know if it's going to affect Myles Gaskin that much. So there's a lot of upside into looking at, those type of players in draft situations, and we'll get more into the, what the draft's going to do. Draft conversation. Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of rosters stuff to turn around and look at. It's gonna be busy next couple of weeks. Entered all my teams.
No, that's exactly it for me too. Like, everybody was putting people on the trade block today, and I'm like, I want to talk trades, but I haven't had a chance to look at anything holistically to figure out what direction I'm even going yet.
Yeah, it's more like for me because I did that. Obviously, mine is just to get. This is my initial thought.
No, I did too. There are guys that I immediately threw out there because I know I'm going to want to move them. It's more so a matter of what type of assets am I going to want to trade for, not who am I going to want to try to trade away, but particularly when it comes to draft picks as well.
Yeah, it's going to be...
or what types of players do I want to target?
With the non-strong running back class, it's going to be interesting to see the value of the top of the draft look at running back. So they're much more wanted in of the quicker hit rates.
Indeed. All right, I'm going to move on to Black Monday.
Yep.
So kind of quick hitters on who we think will be gone, who we think will be back, and I'll run through these as we all kind of burn through these real quick.
Okay.
Bills, there is no way that Doug McDermott's not back.
That dude, I think he's the front runner.
Yeah. Brian Flores, I think, is safe. Bill Belichick's back if he wants to be back. Adam Gase, he's got to be gone, right?
Adam Gase did his job. He did his job until week 15.
Last 2 games.
And then he fucked up, and then he should have been fired after that.
Yeah, he's got to be gone.
Yeah, he'll be gone.
Andy Reid's safe. John Gruden's on a deal for 19 more years. They're not firing him yet. Anthony Lynn. Chargers underperformed. Defense regressed. Anthony Lynn's gone, right?
Has to be. I don't see how we stay.
Broncos have already said Vic Fangio's staying. Tomlin won't go anywhere despite what people want. Neither will Harbaugh. Stefanski's safe. Zach Taylor, I think, is going to get a couple more shots at this with the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't think he gets the Cardinals 1-year treatment that the who was pushing the Josh Rosen, the 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he'll be given one more. I think he'll get one more shot.
1 to 2 more. I mean, you lose your top running back midseason to a foot injury, your rookie quarterback to a knee injury, and your team was progressing well up to that point in time. I think Zach Taylor's got at least 1 more year, if not 2.
Yep.
For the Titans, Vrabel's going nowhere. Reich is going nowhere with the Colts. Texans already fired Bill O'Brien. Doug Marrone's got to be gone for Jacksonville, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, so on the AFC side, we're looking at 1, 2, nothing there. 3, 4 coaching vacancies in the AFC. We're thinking Jets, Chargers, Texans, we know for sure, and Jags.
Yeah, I think those are all pretty. That's obviously Houston for sure. I think before there might be a surprise one, but
yeah,
if there is one, it'd be Zach Taylor. I would still be pretty shocked about it.
Yeah, I think so too, and he's the only one I can look at and see there being a surprise there. Really,
yeah. Yep.
Belichick could retire. That's the only other way I think one opens up.
And that's obviously not getting fired. So I mean, if it wouldn't surprise me if he does. Obviously, season's not gone the way.
Yep. NFC East. So Rivera will stay. He's done a good job. McCarthy will get more than 1 year with the quarterback breaking an ankle. The offense looked fantastic. I think there's a defensive coordinator change in Dallas. We'll get into that. Well, gas on coordinators, but I think Dallas gets a coordinator change, particularly on the defense. Giants, Joe Judge will stay, but I think Jason Garrett might get the axe, and I think that Gettleman's out. Actually, I think they've already said Gettleman's out.
Yeah, I agree.
For the Giants. For the Eagles, Doug Peterson.
This one's tough.
This one's tough for me, too. They underperform so heavily.
His flaws got put on display massively. What could save his job is Jalen Hurts marking the team, wanting to see, not trying to change up the offense. Hurts in your Peterson around one more year. I don't think the Super Bowl has anything that with that situation. Howie Roseman or GM, I do think that Peterson. I think Philly.
I think Peterson.
This year.
Yeah, I think Peterson gets another year, but Howie Roseman's what I'm looking at here too as well. He did a good job assembling that roster, but the problem is
you
that
can't draft for.
Yeah, you're not drafting. I mean, Sanders and Rager are okay picks, but some of the contract decisions and stuff that you're now saddled with, you got an offensive line that could be working out of a nursing home. You've got nothing at the wide receiver position, so to speak of, other than Jalen Rager, Whiteside, we thought was going to be good. That didn't pan out. So there's either some problems in scouting or player development there. The defensive side of the football, I think that they've been adequate, but it seems like Philly's defense is just always kind of mediocre and never really moves towards good or not. I just think there's a lot of holes on that roster that fall on the GM, not Doug Peterson, to where if any change is made, I think it's at the front office level.
Yeah, and I think if Rosen goes, I think Doug Peterson does tips at here.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest off-season storylines to watch is what was. I don't want to talk about it today. Obviously, I think that'll also be. I think they're going to be one of the most watched teams all day. To obviously.
All right. NFC West. I don't think anybody's gone there. Pete Carroll obviously will stay. McVay obviously will stay. Kingsbury's not going anywhere. They did plenty this year, better than last year. And we know that Shanahan's not going anywhere in San Francisco. San Francisco, John Lynch needs to do some serious retooling with that roster.
I agree.
NFC North, LaFleur's staying. Nagy, we already know, is staying. Patricia's already gone. Mike Zimmer.
As a Vikings fan, I want to see him go. What scares me is that I think Spielman and Zimmer tied hip to hip. I don't see a reason to keep Zimmer. I love Zimmer. Defensive coordinator, I think most fans won't give him a pass for the defense this year. I will give him one. Anybody who really knew what this Vikings team was struggling. Massive overall change in the secondary. Daniel Hunter never played a snap, got hurt. Trade for Ngakoue was terrible. I still think it was bad. The trade at the time I thought was bad. Worse when they the Baltimore.
Offenses look good, but that's not his calling.
Looked amazing.
That's not his calling card, though.
And this is where my problem stems in. This team is built for the early 2000s. Gary Kubiak, great coach, 10 years ago. The NFL has changed massively. Offenses built in have changed differently. He hasn't been able to keep up. I think Cousins is better than average quarterback, but I think his welcome is gone too. Problem is, he's likely not going to leave based on their extension. Same thing goes with Spielman and Zimmer. All three of these guys got extension. I don't see them. Spielman, to me, is a great GM. He just can't hit on offensive line.
Yeah,
And
offensive line, you guys seriously lack depth at the wide receiver position. You're too deep, essentially.
Yeah. But the offense is built to only run too deep because it's so built around Dalvin Cook. I know a lot of fans think that the extension of Dalvin Cook was great. I hated that move. But I'm also along the background of why are we paying running backs that type of money when we can allocate better and important positions and just nice cook.
Especially when you have so many holes on the roster. But you guys are, yeah, and more on this when we get to free agency and draft preview, and we'll do a whole series of episodes on team needs. But, yeah, thin at the wide receiver position, thin on the defense as a whole. You know, even though you might be built to run the football, you still need more than 2 wide receivers because inevitably one of them is going to miss a game or 2.
Yeah, and
Brad Beebe and BC Johnson are not the answer behind Jefferson.
I do believe that Kubiak's out. I think offense put it. What Zimmer, it's basically what is Zimmer going to do as a head coach for the offense.
And that's been the problem. That's why LaFleur didn't work.
Yeah, he needs to have.
Or was it LaFleur or was it the other guy?
Stefanski's built the same way with Kubiak. He's come from that same coaching tree. It's just that it worked out better in Cleveland because
they got 2 really good running backs,
talent.
And he's
a better offensive line, and
and he's okay with passing game. And I mean, it's worked. It's worked for both teams from an offensive perspective to do things the way that they're doing things.
Yeah.
I gotta agree. I think it's probably a coordinator change, maybe a GM change. I don't think Zimmer's gone. We know Matt Patricia's already gone with the Lions. We know Dan Quinn already gone with the Falcons, and I don't see the Saints, Bucks, or Panthers making a coaching change. Panthers just went out and got Matt Rule. They need to get a quarterback in there at minimum and continue to build the defense. Arians and Peyton obviously both safe.
I think for the most part we know what's going to happen. There'll likely be a surprise. There'll likely be a shock that one of the guys we think let go doesn't. It happens generally every single year. I don't know too much of the.
It's probably going to be Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, right. No shit. I don't know enough of the top wanted coaches outside of Bellamy from the Chiefs. I think Joe Brady will have a shot at
Bieniemy
coaching job.
Yeah, Bieniemy with the Chiefs. Saleh with the 49ers. Their D coordinator has been mentioned. Northwestern's head coach has been mentioned. A couple times is the next hot college name to make the NFL jump. There's been a couple others. Brian Dabble in Buffalo has been mentioned in some offensive or in some head coaching conversations as well. Those are a couple of hot names to watch. I think Bieniemy and Saleh definitely end up getting head coaching gigs. But all right. And with that, a little bit more Dynasty talk. And then we'll get into some quick Week 7 betting. Before we get into Dynasty talk, though, I got to give some reviews on this Twisted Tea.
Yeah, we do.
So, mostly so I can stop drinking it. So, the light version actually wins the flight for me.
Okay.
The original version, in comparison, at first glance, the original version I think is okay. It's not sweet. It doesn't really taste. It's lightly sweet, like sweet tea, and then it just kind of cuts. You know, it's like tea, and then there's nothing. Whereas, it kind of lacks a bit of depth to it. Really, I mean, you're not drinking Twisted Tea for the flavor, and I think as far as tasting like tea, that works out okay. But not my favorite. The half and half, the lemonade actually really does pop out and give it a nice bite to it, but it kind of has the same problem that the original does, as to where it just kind of drops off. Like if I'm drinking sweet tea, I normally expect there to be sugar and stuff lingering on my tongue.
Yep.
And, you know, my mouth to be like a candy bar. And that just doesn't happen with either of the first two. It just dies off. The light, I think, got it a little bit more right. I think the light, yeah, for sure. The light brings in everything that the original is missing. And it doesn't really taste like a light beverage. It just gives that tailing sugar that I'd expect out of tea. So when it comes to what twisted tea slaps the hardest, it's definitely the light twisted tea out of this bunch. When it comes to which twisted tea I would waste by smacking a bigot in the head, it's the original. That's the one I would definitely sacrifice to bashing somebody's skull in.
I don't think I have much else to add to it. When you drink these flavored malt beverages, twisted tea, whether actual seltzers, you kind of should know what you're getting yourself into. If you don't like iced tea, why the fuck would you drink? It's fine. I don't like even for like, I think it's even too sweet for me. I don't think it's obviously it's not the sweetest thing I've ever had, but it's I don't really care much for iced tea. So it is what it is. Gotta drink it because you told me to, and because it's the thing to do right now.
Yeah, one other thing about the light too is it is a percentage lighter on the alcohol content, so less of a headache in the morning probably.
Probably true.
There's a YouTube clip. That's going to be the thumbnail, is me drinking twisted tea from the can. All right. One thing I saw today two things actually I saw today that I want to talk about. And the first is David Montgomery a dynasty sell? There's a tweet that went out. Again, I won't give names because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. That if you're not selling David Montgomery right now, you are doing it wrong. Is David Montgomery at this point a dynasty sell?
I've been thinking a lot about this because I think the 19 running back class, it in itself, Josh Jacobs, Sanders, and Montgomery all sells.
They've been so up and down.
Jacobs is probably the most obvious sell. I know people are going to say Montgomery, but I don't know how much changes for Montgomery next year. I know getting back a healthy Tariq Cohen be a thing, but he'll be a free agent if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he got an extension this year or last year. Is that correct?
I'll check Spot Track real quick.
Okay. If he did, then obviously this changes. If he hasn't, then he'll be free agent this upcoming season. I don't see the back, thus giving Montgomery this added function. I've obviously soured against Montgomery. Started watching the film, I liked him, and then I started coming off and off. He could be the next Alex Collins, whatever, where he gets overdrafted and performs. I just don't see. He's so soured in the community. I don't see a lot of people paying up for him. I think he's maybe a throw-in more than anything else. I'm not trying to buy him though. I just don't want to buy year 3 running backs of all 3 of them that are in very unknown situation. The dysfunction Philly. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Cohen did sign a 3-year extension to his rookie deal, so he's in Chicago until 2023.
Okay.
With an out basically that saves $6 million in cap space after next year.
Okay,
so
he's
he'll
there
be in Chicago next year.
So he's definitely there in 21. I would have to go look to see.
That's gonna hurt Cordero Patterson probably more than it does David Montgomery, though.
I don't. Yeah, I think the 2 backs expected to be in that backfield next year for sure. It's both Montgomery and Owen. So, it still doesn't change much for me outside of having to go back and look at what Montgomery's done. I just don't like. I'm even trying to sell Sanders as someone who's been bandwagon. We're reaching a year left in their contract. Running backs, it's been a pivot from their age more so than after their first contract, they likely want to move on. We've seen, especially recently, that running backs are replaceable, and most teams, unless the running back is proven to be the focal point of the offense, may not get that second contract. You're not looking at Montgomery this with Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Zeke, and he looks to be just that next replacement. I would rather get ahead of moving him now where his value may be highest, eating maybe one more good year of him, and then him likely to be moved on when potentially make another coaching step. So that's where I stand with Montgomery.
So the one thing you just said there is why I would say Montgomery is a hold at the moment.
Okay.
It is peak. And when we talk about that, part of what we talk about is sustained performance. Well, Montgomery's been very, very good as of late. He does have 2 years left on his rookie deal. While Montgomery's been very, very good as of late, the Bears just fixed their offensive line. The interior of their offensive line. Was that a gong?
That's something.
The Bears just fixed the interior of their offensive line. And that's when... And brought Mitch Trubisky back in. That's when David Montgomery really strung together best several... that is definitely a gong. These best few games of his career. And I think the Bears put more into fixing the offensive line this offseason than any other position. I think that, there'll be some defensive picks. I think that, if they don't re-sign Allen Robinson, then they're going to have to go out and draft a wide receiver in what is a deep wide receiver draft class from what I've heard. I think that David Montgomery is going to put together an RB1 type of season next year to where you're going to be able to flip him even higher than what you can from a stretch of a few good games. Because right now the argument is he sucked the first part of the season up until these last 3 to 4 games, and then he's been really good. I think that the window to sell David Montgomery ideally is next year when he has some of that sustained upside, when he is a clear running back one, when he is a clear guy that could potentially help you win your league. I think that's when you want to flip him.
Yeah. It's like, for me, it's post draft. I wouldn't trade him now. I agree with you that Chicago is not going to allocate any of their resources. They're major draft resources. Any skill position.
It could be a chip to move up in your draft.
Running backs. There's no way that they're going to.
Could be a chip to move up in your draft.
Yeah. There's no way for them. There's no way that I see them drafting a running back or bringing a running back worthy of true competition to Montgomery.
No, not with where they're drafting and how shallow you say this class is.
Yeah, and his value is going to continue to rise post-draft. It's going to be upon winners' boards. I don't think Robinson returns, and they utilize this perceived class to replace him. And even if they keep Robinson, I think they could also still replace the receivers that are disappointed, a la Anthony Miller. Be prepared to lose Robinson.
Yeah, they found something in Darnell Mooney, is their outside field stretcher type of guy. I firmly believe they found something in Darnell Mooney with what they wanted Cordero Patterson and Ted Ginn and Marvin Hall and all of these other guys to be.
Yeah, I think what they would want to do is to keep Robinson. The draft is replaced. Do what the Bengals did. Draft AJ Green's replacement and T. Higgins. Block next year. Bears will draft Robinson's replacement.
But as far as Montgomery goes, I think that
I'm sorry, you're right. Yes.
Sorry, we're getting on a. God, we can't wait to do team needs. Is what I'm picking up from this. The tangent, though, I think David. The biggest difference in Dan's take and my take is where do you think Montgomery's peak value is, and where Dan's at is.
I feel a lot safer with mine. I think yours has higher upside.
And that's exactly it. That's a great way to frame it. Is yours is safer because you're saying the value's high right now. Trade him. Yes, it may go higher, but you're still going to get good value at the moment. And I'm saying I think the value goes any higher. Hold on until maybe even mid next year, and then trade him.
Yeah, he's going to be. I still think move him post draft once everything settles and people are looking at who to target for their run in the 2021 season. I almost agree with you that you need to wait And I think waiting and then seeing how things play out, he can obviously be a popular sell candidate during the actual season if you're. But again, we'll get more into that later. I saw your second point to this question.
Yeah, what's your cost on Miles Sanders?
See, this one's tough because just like with Jacobs, the underperformance this year obviously coincides with A, the injury, and B, just a disarray that the Philly team has been. And Doug Peterson's ineptness to see that relying on Sanders is more important, or at least giving Sanders touches is more important than giving touches to fucking Alshon Jeffrey, to now Jordan Howard. But my thing will always stem to is I don't trust the organization in Philly. And I believe a coaching change will happen sooner rather than later. That could hurt Sanders. I don't think Sanders has been good enough to be given that contract extension. And I think he'll be moved on. And then now you're taking a risk that he, A, lands with a new team and starts and is also effective. Running backs, again, as I said with Montgomery, is the thinking has shifted to away from the age aspect and more so the first year contract, where they're on a rookie deal. They're likely drafted to be a part of that offense. That contract ends. The elite ones gets re-signed, and then everybody else gets moved on from. And I don't think Sanders, as much as I like him, has reached that plateau of where Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry are.
So if you have Miles Sanders on your roster, what are you selling him for?
I am trying to
move him for.
Yeah, I'm trying to get. If it's during draft season, I want to try to get him for a top 3 pick. I don't think that will happen. I think a lot of people are going to be high on Najee Harris, and he's the only guy that I would move him for. He'd be like Montgomery, and you probably want to hold on to him post draft. But I think there could be potential risk in that, because Philly could and draft their running back. Someone to complement Sanders in the running game, that just fucks everything. He's more of a hold, just like it is with Montgomery, but I'm trying to move on away from.
So you're trying to get a top 3 pick to basically have a shot at either Najee Harris or ETN.
I don't even want ETN over Sanders, but we'll get more into that later. To me, Harris is in his, class, a tier of his own. But it's if not that, then a young wide receiver. I think the goal or the game is to draft these running backs, move them for the next upcoming receivers, and just keep recycling these running backs every couple of 2. Obviously, that would be best case scenario. That's how I build my rosters, but that would be what I'm looking for.
From a dynasty philosophy standpoint, young wide receiver is interesting, by the way. More on that later. But from a dynasty roster building standpoint, by the way, the game is exactly what you just said. It is get a running back and then flip them for young wide receivers. Or, at minimum, if you're finishing middling, draft the young wide receivers. Don't reach on running backs. And the reason is the shelf life of wide receivers is so much longer than running backs. If you're a rebuilding team, you have time to build around those young wide receivers.
Yeah, and generally, they, quote unquote, disappoint year one. You move on.
Woohoo! You get a higher draft pick.
Yeah, we have 3 straight. We will now have 3 straight draft classes of very good to be wide receiver depth. Running backs, from what I've seen so far and scouted so far, the next 2 classes are 3 where things start to look. Obviously, that can change. I'm not going to talk about that now, but the 19 running backs are going to be a big topic of conversation, at least for us, and probably on Twitter with disappointment, Sanders and Jacobs, and what to do. How we perform.
Sure. All right, Dan. One last go at things. I'm looking at FanDuel. I don't want to go through these game by game, but what's that?
I said I got him up there too.
Anything that jumps out, I don't really see anything jumping out to me. Falcons, Tampa Bay. Again, Tampa not a ton to play for. So
I like Chicago plus 5.5. I think they're going to play Green Bay tough. I generally don't like betting week 17, these final weeks, because a lot of shit can change even within these games. The NFL has done a good job to save all the excitement for part of time slate. Thankfully, the wide slate. But even then, within these games, one game goes out of hand, it could actually affect how some of these other teams approach the later parts of their games to really fuck the Lions up.
yeah, Buffalo Miami has no over under. That's something to keep an eye on.
Neither does the Rams or Cardinals.
Yeah, that's quarterback.
Right now.
Quarterback situations there.
Yeah.
Jets,
These lines will change because it is just Tuesday.
Yep. Jets plus 146 against the Patriots. The way the Jets have been playing, they could pull that one out.
Plus 3 on the road.
Isn't it over? If you're looking same game parlays, I would look at Houston and Tennessee. For that over under on that one's 56.5. So going to be some points there.
I have an odd feeling that game might actually
go under.
Not that game, but the point total spread might actually lower a little bit. I think
it goes under.
Way over.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I think this game will be close. Both teams are playing essentially for a playoff spot. One of them with the home game in the wildcard round.
Tennessee and Houston?
I'm sorry, not Tennessee. I still think it goes over. I think Houston keeps. For some reason, I was thinking.
No, Colts, Jacksonville. Well, either way, both teams aren't playing for a playoff spot. Over on, Colts are against Jacksonville. I see what you're saying. You thought Tennessee was playing Indy.
Yes.
Yeah, no. Colts, Indy, over under on that one's 50. Or Colts and Jacksonville, over under on that one's 50.
I'm not. Most over-runners I'm probably staying away from unless both something to play for.
Yeah.
One team is trying to play. That's why I think Houston. You can even take Houston plus 7.5. I think that could be.
Over in Bears Packers, by the way, pending weather. Over under, and that one's 52.
That's a high. I thought for sure that would start at like 49.5. Maybe 50. 52, I think Vegas is expecting a lot of over bets early on, and that's why it gets the high start.
Well,
that one I also think.
I think it does too, even at 52. You look at what the Bears have done the last couple weeks, points-wise.
Yeah. To me, it was definitely an aggressive game total open the week. And just in my
Yeah, Bears, since they got drubbed by Green Bay, have been over 30 every week.
Played up to expect the weaker matchups and just basically doing what they're supposed to do for wildcard playoff.
Stymied Houston.
What's that?
Stymied Houston did Chicago a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. I don't want to dig too deep into props or anything like that. Week 17 is not something we're going to dive a lot into. It's always tough. All of these games could go a lot of different ways depending on, with playoff implications. There's always a chance people get rested. The games where you're pretty much assured that nobody's going to get rested are Dallas, New York, because winner of that game, if Washington loses, they play before Washington does, so you can guarantee that both of those games are going to be played hard. Arizona, Los Angeles, because there's so much at stake for both of those teams. And, Denver, Las Vegas, Detroit, Minnesota, the games where nobody's playing for anything is about the only other point you can guarantee nobody's getting rested. Washington, Philadelphia as well. Because Washington's also in a must-win sitch. Anything else?
I think that wraps 2020 season for us.
Wraps the year of 2020 for us too. We'll be back in 2021. We'll start it off with our 2020 Feelies episode, and then from there we'll start looking at some other things. We'll start looking at team needs. We'll start working draft in the background. Maybe give some takes as we land on some takes and stuff throughout the year, different than what we did last year, instead of having to sit on these takes and hold them in for so long. So, just some things to think about. We'll keep you up to date on all the playoff happenings. More Dynasty talk, obviously, as the offseason goes. This is a fun time for us. So,
God, I love this time of the year.
I do too. So, yep. Until next time, guys.
Yeah.